Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand, attorney Jen Riza and her team will help you understand the latest developments, scope out risks, and find a compliant path forward in this rapidly changing field. Visit northstarlaw.com and let North Star Law Group guide you through the legal landscape with confidence. Hello. Another episode of Northern Lights. Welcome. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by a whole crew, Marcus, John, and Steve. Welcome, guys.
Hey, we got the gang back.
Yeah, super happy to have you guys here. Fun to sit on this side of the table for once. It's a good one. Guys, we got a lot of news to talk about today.
Mm-hmm. One of the best markets coming online.
Oh, yeah. We've got an interview a little bit later that we're pulling from The Vault, a YouTube exclusive that we're putting out. Jacob Schlichter, one that you guys were all a part of. Yeah, super excited to be able to feature that interview as well. Hear a little bit more about his business and some of the stuff that he's rocking, some of his opinions on medical cannabis, some of your opinions on medical cannabis. It's a good episode.
I talked to Jacob this week. I'm working on some apparel for later this summer. And got a quote from Jacob, so shout out to Get Slicks.
I saw some pretty cool cultivated sweatshirts the other day.
Yeah, I saw it in real life. I was talking to Anthony on Wednesday at Earl Giles. No, but Anthony went through Slicks to get those hoodies made. Yeah, it's cool to see hemp clothing continuing to find its way out there.
Yeah. And then a little bit later in the episode, we're going to be featuring a clip from one of our classes. So How to Grow Big Plants, Dr. Dabbs, Matt Robidoux. It was a great class. If you want to be able to watch it, we got it available on our website. But also we're going to be putting the first 10 minutes of it so you can hear a little bit about who those people are, hear the first intro of the class, and you can go online and finish that up.
Yes, sign up online and you can get full access to all of our classes.
Yeah, it's been fun watching people sign up for that. All the people that came to our in-person classes, we sent them links so they could get all signed up, and we're getting some really good feedback of, I sort of had forgotten about that from the class, but that's a good tip or other good stuff. So.
And that class in particular, Raiden Labs, Doc Dabbs, they put a ton of work into it, and really, it's one of my favorite classes that we ever did.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, well, before we jump into today's news, because we do have some pretty cool stuff coming up, I want to give a quick shout out to the Dabbler Depot. As always, they're hosting us here. We've talked about them enough. You guys know who the Dabbler Depot is. Shout out to them. But they've got a pretty cool event that they just announced. John is holding up a flyer right now. The Doobie Dabbler. And this do be an event that you want to come to. Coming up September. John, do you want to read off some of the information on the flyer?
We got Doobie Dabblers, September 6th and 7th, 2024. Join us at the Great Green Get-Together. There'll be live entertainment, music, food, games, a corn maze, a corn maze, silent disco, THC and CBD vendors, and more. It'll be at Severs Festival Grounds. Am I saying that right? Severs? Severs Festival Grounds.
I think it's 100 acres. It's out in Shakopee, Eden Prairie area. It's a little more information came out since they made that. They're going to have a zip line.
All right.
Big slide. They're really going for it.
That's cool. It's a Great Green Get-Together. That sounds like a pretty fun event.
Yeah, and it's put together by Dabbler Depot, Verist, and then Severs.
Yeah, Verist Joy. Shout out to those guys. Sergio's been doing a lot for them.
Sergio's amazing.
People probably know him as the guy that has the suit covered in pot leaves.
The sweetest weed suit you've ever seen. We need to get him and Lindsay Port in the same room at the same time.
Okay.
In their suits.
Have him bring the gravity bomb.
Yeah, bring the pineapple. But yeah, Doobie Dabbler, September 6th and 7th. Show up.
And I heard allegedly there might even be some classes, some live shows happening there. So people should check it out. Not ready to announce anything yet, but definitely check that out.
More reason to be there.
Do be there. Yeah. There we go. I like that one. That was good.
Doobie or not Doobie?
There we go. You need to be.
Yeah, no question. Can we make any other puns? I feel like we got at least one more left in there.
Doobie
doo.
Where are you?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the. Yeah. All right.
At Severs Festival Ground, September 6th and 7th. Show up.
There we go.
Your doobie is showing.
Wow, we're totally selling this event. Shout out to the Dabbler Depot. Come check out this event. It's a fun one.
And every Tuesday they're doing home grow meetups here at
Yeah.
their Seed and Sesh. That's Payne and Phelan in St. Paul. Yeah, you can come out on
51.
Tuesday nights and get some grow education, find some gromies, and have a good time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool here. All right, y'all. Should we jump into this week's news?
Let's get it.
Feed first.
So we were off last week. I'll be honest. I had a cold. Sorry, guys. We were out recovering. We're happy to be back now. We got a lot of news that we're covering. Some from last week, but also some really new news. Some that actually just happened yesterday as of our recording. So excited to jump in. But the first one is actually from last week, but still an important story that I think we should talk about. We're seeing more and more of our native nations come online to the production of cannabis, the sale of cannabis, whatever be it. And we found out that the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa is now officially joining the run. They're not looking to open a retail store as of what we know right now, but what we do see is that they're going to have roughly an 18,000 square foot cultivation and manufacturing facility.
Wow.
Oh, and also they're going to be selling their products next to the Black Bear Casino and Resort.
Bang, bang, bang. I love that. I'm like, this is our year. We're legal now.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing more of the tribes jump in, filling that supply gap that we're predicting we're going to have once we're fully online. I love this so much. I love that the tribes will just continue to lead the way on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope it permeates through culture and society and shows early on in these mainstream, casino type areas that there is another option besides alcohol. Yeah, and I mean, some of these tribes, they own properties outside of just the casinos. So I hope their hotels and their other properties that they have, I hope that they take some more lax rules to cannabis beverages, because if they're full on growing cannabis, I'm hoping that their retail and hospitality venues can support or allow for cannabis beverages as well.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing, I think, the opportunity that we knew was sort of coming about now being seized upon. And we're going to be, I feel, like one of the most cannabis-friendly states from top to bottom. And it's cool that it's not just going to be, I love Colorado. It's great to go there. You go outside of Denver, it's a little bit tough to be part of that cannabis community. It's a little more spread out. There are less stores available to that adult use market. Here in Minnesota, it's looking like you can go up to Duluth.
Inverse, yeah.
We're going to have a bunch of cannabis. You can go west 3 hours. You can go south 6 hours. You can go wherever you want in the state. There's going to be cannabis there.
That's cool. That is cool. And yeah, just our openness to consumption events as well has been nice.
Yeah. Well, so moving right along, some other news sort of in the same vein. This is some news from this week. We had yet another retail store open in Minnesota, now selling adult use cannabis products. So that is the store Sweetest Grass, which is run by the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, now open and accessible to Minnesotans.
Walker, Minnesota, roughly.
Oh my gosh. Good old Walker days. I think if I were to go back to Walker 2021, you've corrected me enough times, I would not have guessed that would be the place to have store number 3 of legal adult use cannabis in Minnesota. And yet here we are.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Sweetest Grass. I like the name.
Yeah, I love it too. Still about 3 hours from downtown Minneapolis, so still a little bit of a trek, but man, it's cool seeing northern Minnesota have some of the best access to cannabis, a place that historically it's been a little bit harder to acquire cannabis.
No, it's the first. It's the only place you can go to get it from the dispensary.
Expect the unexpected.
I think that's just going to keep happening with cannabis in Minnesota, where all their states are doing it like this, and then there's Minnesota doing their own thing. Yeah.
Well, so we've got one more store that's opening sometime this summer. We don't have the exact date yet, but Island Peze, which is going to be about 45 minutes. It's the Prairie Island community. If you've ever been to Treasure Island, it's not that far from Minneapolis.
Nope.
There's now going to be a legal adult use dispensary there as well, at least this summer. So by the end of this summer, you'll be able to go on a road trip, drive around Minnesota, see some of the most beautiful parts of our state, and also buy cannabis at
legal
least 4
cannabis.
different stores, perhaps even more.
And from what I understand, with the connections that we have through the Minnesota Cannabis College, that the tribes will be selling potentially some of their strains and cultivars to other tribes. And so we won't have to go necessarily all the way to native care. to get access to some of the flower that Native Care is growing.
Yeah, some of the strains you want.
That's oh man, I didn't even put it in the notes, but that's such like a great point because we saw that some of the cannabis being sold here, how are they able to open and just be available so quickly? It's because White Earth grew a lot of their cannabis.
Yes.
Such a good way to just like figure this out. Like, how are we actually going to work together? Because now it's like when we get those full retail licenses, they can look at the model that the tribes are doing. It's like, okay, we can just keep things in house in such a unique way.
I like that this is allowing us to better understand the tribes. We're
Yeah.
covering it as news, but we're also able to go and have a retail experience and go to these
Absolutely.
places. I think it's just going to help us better understand each other as Minnesotans.
For sure. It's been cool talking about, here's some positive news coming out of the state. Here's some positive news coming out of some Native nations. Here's some less positive news coming out of municipalities. But, I mean, all in all, it's been pretty good seeing our program begin to start to roll out. And I feel like we've been joking about making a road trip, not joking, but saying we got to do it. We're getting only more reasons every single day to go and
The
make
road
that
trip's
road
getting
trip.
like better and better.
My neighbor, his dad is from Red Lake, and they were up there a few weeks ago. And my neighbor's like, I saw 6 young white guys on the res, and I was like, why are they here? And my uncle said, we've got a dispensary.
But I think that goes to Steve's point. It's like, it's going to make us understand each other that much more. Yeah, it's just,
Cannabis breaks down
like, people are
barriers.
just going to be around each other. They're going to want to smoke together, and there you go.
Yeah. Shout out Native Care. I mean, shout out some of the
Really?
people that are doing this work in Minnesota, already making cannabis available.
Yeah.
I saw, guys, Native Care is selling clones now. Have you guys seen that?
I have seen
that's
that on
nice.
Insta.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, like a year, 2 years from now, we're going to see a lot of clones being sold through Minnesota. But
But like, to already have that kind of capacity is like, there we go. Before anyone else is getting their licenses, let's go.
Yeah, shout out to Shy, shout out to Jordan and Nokomis. We're proud of you guys down here. That's cool.
yeah, really cool
Kicking
stuff.
ass.
All right, well, we got one final story that I want to jump into before we talk about some local municipal updates, give people some chance to sort of make their voice heard on that. We've now been seeing, with the legislation done, that session over, sort of the laws passed that are going to be passed. We know what the rules are going to be around our adult use program, at least some of the early license rules. And we're now starting to see exactly how many Minnesotans are going to be qualifying under that social equity provision. With the definition changing over that last session, we didn't exactly know what this was going to look like. And we've talked about this on past episodes where, maybe there are people that we think of as social equity applicants that actually don't really fall under that measure. Well, the Minnesota Reformer did some really great research diving into the numbers and actually calculating, based on what we know today, how many Minnesotans actually will be qualifying as a social equity applicant. And the numbers might shock you. There's some good clickbait we're going to cut right there. No, I'm just kidding. No. But actually, the numbers are really surprising, seeing that perhaps upwards of 40% of Minnesotans could plausibly qualify as a social equity applicant under the rules that were passed in Minnesota. Remember, it allows people that have convictions themselves, that are family members, have convictions, emerging farmers, which now has a much more clear definition. Their veterans is another big category. People that are going to be opening hemp businesses, cannabis businesses. I mean, that's a...
And the
chunk of
insane
people.
part about this estimate, does not account for all cannabis convictions.
Yeah.
Once we get all those in there, plus family members and dependents, we're going to be looking at like half the state will qualify for our social equity licenses, which we'll see how that works operationally for the OCM, or if they go back to make some changes if it's not looking the way they want to. But I'm very excited to have people getting these licenses this year. It seems like a lot of people are going to apply, at least. Yeah.
I mean, but just because people would qualify as a social equity applicant doesn't mean they're going to apply for a license.
That's fair.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Hopefully not everyone.
Yeah,
I
hopefully we
think
don't have 50% of our states
apply for a license.
businesses.
What if they all rode e-bikes down to the office and dropped off the application?
Yeah,
If only.
I am nervous for the day when these applications open and suddenly we have this influx of people applying when, I mean, yes, we definitely want a lot of people in the industry, that's for sure. But, I mean, do we trust our
It's like
state infrastructure.
kind of 7 weeks to get it together, though.
Yeah,
Just about 7 weeks
from today.
From
Like,
today is so less by the time you guys are watching this to go from a non-system to a system that qualifies social equity applicants and then processes all, because every application is going to get like processed like the way, because we're doing it lottery style.
Yeah.
They're going to have to look every application, do appeals, and then the lottery.
Oh yeah.
By the end of summer. It's an insane task, and I really think OCM, I hope they're up to it.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't really know what to say about this one, where I'm really excited that we're having a lot of access to social equity. We've talked for years about how really that's an important part of our program, is getting those people to be part of this industry. I'm interested to see what our industry actually looks like.
Like who these these licensees with these early social equity approvals, who's it going to be? And I think that's going to determine what kind of regulation and legislation we see from OCM next year as they try to tweak the system a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean to be the contrary. I feel like I'm being just like the negative guy today. But John, by that point, all the early licenses are going to be out.
Yeah.
All the social equity licenses are going to be issued. Like, I get that they can fix this in the future, but
we will be going 1-to-1 in the future, though. So when the full licensing is out, it's like if those people in the pre-approval, it's not like the cohort that they were imagining. They could tweak it so when we're giving out our 1-to-1s, it gets more of what they were imagining. Because I know they're like the whole reason we're doing pre-approval. It's like, let's get social equity applicants in. Let's get victims of the drug war in. And that's who I hope ends up with a lot of these licenses.
But theoretically, what if it gets delayed and then there's new deadlines and new timelines set? Then that will push back the non-social equity applicants as well, in theory.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because the legislature made the choice to put those
Deadlines
application dates
in statute. Yeah.
So the office will be like legally non-compliant if they push those dates back. Like, they have to close the window of applications by a hard date in August.
Was it like
August 12th?
Yeah, and we would literally need a special session
And then
to change that.
Is it 30 days after that they have to tell you
believe
if you've
so.
got your license? So we're looking at mid-September, the second, third week of September, people will be knowing if they got those licenses or if they didn't.
This is fucking crazy.
It's
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah, it
right?
is insane.
Dude, like, I think back, Marcus, like 7 years ago, meeting you because I was scared of smoking weed outside without cops harassing me, to now we're like giving out people these fucking licenses. Like, it's like, I almost don't know how to think about it because I'm feeling so much about it.
Well,
sometimes.
it's also peak. It's just peak event and festival season between those dates, and the industry is going to be coming together multiple times. It could get contentious at times as well.
These
Like,
people are
I mean,
meeting up in the same
if
space.
we
You
need
got
the
a
Royal
license,
Rumble.
You didn't get a license.
right around September.
Yeah,
And
some people
we need to
be
find who
vexed.
gets these event licenses this summer, because event licenses, they're going to start rolling. I think.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too.
So for people that are listening or watching and maybe thinking like, all right, well, you guys seem nervous. How is this actually going to shake out? Let's talk through some of the options.
Yeah.
Best possible scenario, they increase their infrastructure. They hire some more temporary workers. They grind. They work late hours, but they get through it. Yeah. They review all the applications. They get the studies in place by time licenses are issued by the fall. We see growing start this year. Best case scenario?
Yeah, and I know, well, my assumption is that OCM is not actually going to be the ones to go over the licenses nor run the lottery, that they're going to hire someone else.
Okay.
So the hope is they have that figured out, and they're just working on rules as an office, and it'll be like, so they can put out the qualifier is a big thing now. Like, we have the license date, but it's like, how are we qualifying people before that license date? I hope that's where their focus is, and that other stuff is already done. Beautiful. But like that is like what I think is happening. But it's so, you don't know till you know. You don't know until they put it out on their website. You don't know until you get an email.
For sure.
Now this is it like July 24th to August 12th,
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah.
So is this only for the pre-approvals?
Yep.
Okay. So when will they open up the applications for the rest of the licensees?
So that
February
part-
25 is my guess, but
Yeah.
sometime early Q1 2025.
Not set in statute. They can do it when
2026 if
Yeah.
they wanted.
appropriate. Yeah, when
I mean, but that's
I don't think we'll
what
see
I
that.
know they're trying to avoid. I do think a lot of the changes made at the end was like Q2 25 at the latest for retail stores for like the rest for non-social equity. Like that's the timeline. They seem really set on that Q2 2025.
So let's talk through the other scenario, the one that we're not super thrilled to talk about. But let's say things don't go as planned. What does that actually look like? So let's say
Crash
people
the
go to
website.
apply, website crashes. Maybe people don't know if they're social equity applicants until a week before applications are issued. Maybe less time. We have people that are filling out those applications, going online. Maybe we don't meet that 30-day deadline of reviewing those applications. We could see, worst case scenario, things get moved back to early part of next year before things start getting. I mean, this is obviously worst case scenario. But if you guys had to speculate,
I mean, when they've
On
made
that
delays,
spectrum.
when they've made delays thus far, it has been months
Yeah.
of delays. It's been 3 months
absolutely.
minimum.
Well, and I used to work for, I've talked about this before, I used to work for the state of Minnesota. We had a legal deadline. All applications for EMTs need to be renewed by this date. There was one year where I was there till literally 11 p.m. at night. We didn't meet it. On our website for the next 48 hours, it showed a temporary, the office is reviewing applications. Please do not make decisions based upon this. I hope we don't see anything like that for cannabis licenses, because that is like, that would be worst case scenario of, hey, you're probably going to get approved. Your license made it through. It met the check marks. Unfortunately, we just haven't made the review yet, but it's going to happen soon.
Assumptions. We want
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
little assumptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So send your well
gonna be
wishes
so-
to the state of Minnesota. Hope you got this, guys.
Wow.
If you had to-
Oakley doodle.
And how can we? Yeah, it's like
You work for the OCM, right? No.
No, they didn't hire me. I applied. They moved on with another candidate.
did they actually hire someone yet though?
Not yet, I don't think.
Yeah, as I say, I don't think there's a lot of open positions still.
And I'll speak I'll speak on
That's
behalf
like
of
that.
those who can't. Like, if their hiring process has been slow, which we all know it has, from the top down, not a lot of faith.
I was on this very podcast just months ago when the governor's office put out and said, yeah, by May we're gonna have a name selected, and by middle of June that person will be in office taking over. June 7th, we've not have a name selected. I don't think someone's starting next week.
No.
I mean, I would personally love to have a director before we start issuing licenses, but maybe not.
I say watch that space for the summer. I think my assumption, I don't know, how I feel like they're going to do it is right around they're giving out those licenses is when we get that new director. So early fall, late summer. But like you said, it has been, if there's a delay in that, like the effects, like the butterfly effect from that could be pretty detrimental. So good faith. I'm all for the good faith. I'm all for like,
Absolutely.
yeah, you guys fucked up in the past a few times, but it's like, hey, session's over. This is the focus. The focus is promulgating rules, writing rules, promulgating rules, getting these licenses out. I just trust, I hope that like the timeline will be the timeline.
And I think really, and I mean this not negatively, but I think that's really all that we can do right now is the OCMs, from what they put out, they seem to be good actors. They're doing their best. They're getting stuff put in place. I'm excited to see it all fall into place.
Thoughts
As
and
I'm
prayers.
sure they are as well.
and pray.
Thoughts and prayers.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, we got some local updates looking at some counties and some cities that are making some interesting choices around cannabis, and we're going to be jumping through that. So we'll be right back.
What if we put $120,000 in a bag and dropped it off?
Dude,
All right, we do have to talk about that story.
I think we definitely
All right.
should talk about that.
And we're back. So, guys, that was insane. Feeding our futures, for those who haven't seen, there was a court case, led to convictions today.
5 out of 7, yeah.
Yeah, but one of the jurors was approached with a bag with thousands of dollars in it.
Is it 40,000?
I think it was 12,000.
I think it was 120,000.
120,000. Okay,
See,
yeah,
that's
that
how it
sounds right.
works, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the first guy saw 120,000. The second guy, he only saw it was 80K
yeah.
we turned in. It's like, yeah, no, we turned in the 40K.
This guy came up to me with $8.
Since I've been on the podcast, I've had jury duty, and it's interesting. I was reading the story on the Star Tribune today. There's no way that the defendants are supposed to even know the name or the where that person lives. So they're investigating how that name leaked.
Totally.
But keep going.
Look at the bailiffs.
It was the youngest. I read more. She was 23. She was the only African American on the juror panel, and it was given to her father-in-law, I believe, because she wasn't home. And then when she got home, she looked at it, 120,000 allegedly, and then called the cops and was like, "Hey, this is fucked up. I just got this cash." And they were promised more.
Yeah, they said there will be more.
Wow. Steve, I don't mean to put you on the spot. You said you had jury duty recently.
Yeah, I was
Were
juror
you
48.
ever approached with a bag of cash? And
I was not even interviewed, unfortunately. It was a weird day. It was an afternoon start, and they didn't get through all the jurors. So I was basically dismissed, and I biked home.
nice. All right.
Yeah. I just got the $50 in the mail.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Good old per diems.
Yeah.
The Feeding Our Future, for those not familiar, it's a bunch of people scammed the federal and state government saying they were feeding children, and they stole like 50 million.
No. Yes, it is, but it isn't. It was over $250 million in alleged fraud. And then I think 47 million in actual, just let me take that.
Wow.
And I think it should be some of it did get turned into meals that were fed to people.
And some of it got turned into houses in Lakeville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dude, houses, cars in other countries, like all the stuff they bought was insane. And that's the thing about fraud, though.
I hate fraud.
Where'd the $100,000 come from? Because it came from the fraud. Like, let's be for real. So
Right.
now they're using their fraud money to try to get out of it. And that's the thing about fraud. The state never catches. They catch maybe a small percentage of how much you stole. And
You know what it's actually? It sounds more like frog. Just jumping back into them.
Incredible. Wow. Maybe if they tried to sell THCA products, they could avoid.
could have gotten away
Yeah,
with
no,
it. Just
it would've
put
been
their free rolls
Actually,
everywhere.
did you guys see there was $250,000 worth of cannabis products destroyed in Minnesota since they've started seizing THCA flower?
I wonder how many pounds of gummies they've taken.
Oh my god.
32.
Hey,
Tinctures.
when
thrown out.
police officers stop weighing the product that they seize from people, I'll be thrilled. I think that's great. And it's even funnier when it's not actual flour. It's gummies. Like, why do you need to know the weight of that? That's not a
Let's make them sound cool.
It does make it, yeah.
55 pounds.
But I have been seeing that, and Chris Elver mentioned today at the Hemp Beverage Alliance that most of the products that they're pulling are out of state.
Yeah.
And it's cannabinoid soup with a lot of, I would imagine HHC, Delta 8. Those brands that are trying to get away with it are like adding up all the minors, multiplying it, and then calling it a 600 milligram gummy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Death by gummies.
Death by
R.I.P.
the most.
Well, should we talk about some of the people protecting us from death by gummies? Of course, I'm talking about some of our beautiful counties and cities throughout the state of Minnesota. So today we're going to be talking through four
Wow.
different municipalities that are all weighing different cannabis provisions. Some considered them literally yesterday as of recording, so last week for you guys. Some are going to be recording or looking at them in the future, so we wanted to mention them so people can get involved if they're so interested. First was that we want to shout out St. Louis County. Good old St. Louis County, home to the city of Duluth. You might have been to that city before.
Oh.
Yeah,
Most people don't associate Duluth with St. Louis.
No. Well, and
Just like Compton.
exactly. Well, and so Duluth, I've heard they have some pretty good cannabis trivia events there. One or two of them. Do you know how many combined river? No. We're done with that one.
100,000.
Too many. Well, so yesterday they held a special meeting to look at what would a cannabis law for our city look like. It looks like, evaluating how the law impacts cities. It looks like potentially a moratorium through the end of this year, so through December 31st.
And do they mean that like no more registrations?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So no more registrations, and also if there's like that social equity licenses being given out, that moratorium would apply. We would not see social equity licenses being given in greater St. Louis County, because the funny thing about this is the city of Duluth, if they don't have that rule, it doesn't apply to the city of Duluth. So in Duluth, you're free, quote unquote. Outside, you're under the county, and these regulations would apply.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone could still open their thing in Duluth.
For sure, yeah.
Or at least sign something saying, because you can't actually sell anything this year, so.
Yeah.
So the St. Louis County Commissioner's office is in Duluth? Do they
Yeah,
make those
so they're
decisions
located
there?
in Duluth because that's like the county seat.
The town. Yeah.
So they'll be in a town where their moratorium does not actually apply, but they're regulating the rest of the county.
Virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Taxpayer
Keeping
money,
the
hard at work.
streets of St. Louis County unsafer.
Yeah. So what we do have to say is this moratorium has not passed. This was the regulation that we're looking at yesterday as part of a special meeting. Likely in the next couple of weeks, we'll see that brought up to the city
Do
council.
they have the next vote or the next meeting?
Not in time for us to record this podcast, but I will put a link in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, definitely go check that out. If you want to be part of that, you can get that link there.
We should post pictures of these clowns.
Oh, so that happened yesterday. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, not yet approved by that county committee. Still more to come on that, but we could be seeing that rolled out pretty quickly here. All right, moving along to Stearns County, a little bit closer to here in the metro area. They had a meeting, they are having a meeting on June 18th to look at a potential moratorium for their city. Through January 1st, it would put a total ban on cannabis businesses, at least new cannabis businesses.
So, yeah, all these just new ones.
It's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
The great work of government.
Yeah, so if you're in Stearns County, you want to be involved, Tuesday, January 18th, 9 a.m.
Because, like, now is the only time they can charge whatever they want.
Well, and
like,
it's-
that's what I would be doing.
Think of how many hours of city employees, city officials, all of that
Taxpayer money hard at
going
work.
into a moratorium that's lasting
Less
6
than,
months.
Less than.
Yeah, insane. I really hope that we see these committees, these commissioners, whatever, start actually looking at what does reasonable regulation look like instead of just saying, nah, not here. Not in
Kicking the
my
can
backyard.
down the
In
road. Kicking that
Stearns County, you
5
won't.
milligram
Yeah.
cam down the road.
No.
I mean, the
in
drug
Stearns
war
County.
raged pretty hard in Stearns County. That's where
Amen.
St. Cloud is.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
we were
yeah.
seeing arrest rates that were crazy disproportional looking at how people are actually arrested in Stearns County.
I did not get arrested in Stearns County, but I definitely could have that night. And,
That
white
ominous
hashtag
night.
white privilege, I guess.
Yeah.
They used to call St. Cloud.
Closest
Race
I
Bar.
got to getting arrested in Stearns County was at the quarry. Yeah.
Jumping.
Well, no, I had to toss a bottle of something.
Like hot sauce.
Yeah,
Bottle
a
of
big old bottle of hot sauce. I was
Crybaby
chugging
Craig's.
on my way.
I got arrested in McCloy County like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, man, how's that been going?
It's fucked up.
It's the power of
can't.
criminal enforcement, right? We talk about the criminal injustice system, and
Yeah, I'm
crazy
gonna
seeing
fight
how it
it,
rolls
man.
out.
I'm fighting it.
Marshall Council. Is this Marshall, Minnesota?
It is, yeah. So now we're going from that county level to that city level. We're seeing Marshall, Minnesota, looking at potentially, again, introducing legislation that would allow businesses to register with them to sell hemp-derived products. So not a total prohibition, but more of a, what does these regulations look like? So what we can see right now is that it would ban sales within 500 feet of a school or as an in-home business. So we're not going to see people selling cannabis out of their homes legally in Marshall.
Okay.
I really don't understand making the distinction like they did between higher level cannabis and lower level when you're not allowed to in the state of Minnesota sell that higher cannabis all year.
It's the exact same thing as these other counties, these other groups where they're looking at something new and saying, we don't know what to do with this. I guess we better just ban it.
Ban it entirely.
And the whole point of legalization is that prohibition doesn't work. We know that it doesn't work. And now people are saying like, well, at least just for a couple more months.
Prohibitionists die hard.
I wonder. This is interesting because we know Crested River's out of Marshall, Minnesota, and or no, that's Morgan, Minnesota. Oh,
but I mean, the same sort of type of community, same sort of part of the state.
Oh yeah,
been super interesting seeing how all these people are responding.
Tallgrass Liquor was the only business in Marshall that was originally allowed to sell lower potency hemp edibles, drinks and edibles. Said THC sales only 4% of their overall sales.
Yeah.
Now I was at the conference today. Much larger liquor store, Top 10 Liquor, was there talking about how it's 10 to 15% of their overall sales, and 6 out of their top 10 products.
I walked by a liquor store the other day that's selling THC products, and in the window they had like a piece of cardboard with Sharpie written on it, THC sold here. And I think it's been interesting seeing liquor stores that really sort of buy in. I mean, we're here at the Dabbler Depot, buy into cannabis and say like, this is something that we really want to push, succeed with it, and find customers. And ones that just sort of like have it on the back shelf is like, it's there. Really, some people are checking it out for sure. But when you have so many businesses that are openly selling it, why would you go to the liquor store down the street that has like maybe 1 or 2 options they don't really know about, versus the store that has 50 like.
Right, 200.
That's where Dabbler Depot hits everyone in the sweet spot. But I have seen a lot of these liquor stores. There's been kind of 2 tracks of the ones who got a bunch of product early, so they never got to integrate any of the new stuff. And they're like, oh, we don't sell that much THC because they're sitting on all this product everyone already knows sucks because the market's moving so fast. And then you have like your top 10s, Stinson Liquor, like around the U of M areas, Surdix, where it's like we're rotating, we're moving stuff, we're getting the new stuff in because that's how we hit that 15% mark. It's like we're always bringing in new stuff, seeing what people like. So it's really like how you came into it, I think, is really affecting how you're selling right now.
The beverage market is the definition of canna curious.
Yeah,
and so they want to try new stuff every time. They're not going to settle because they know that it keeps getting better.
Yeah, and that's where like drinks like this, where it's like the more people innovate, you need to have this in like 6 months before it's super trendy, or it's going to be like, oh, I don't make money off these. It's like,
bingo card. John just dropped his vape or something out of his pocket.
You'll never guess what.
There we go.
It's my pick.
Not a vape.
But yeah, shout out to the Dabbler Depot, working hard over here at Pain and
It's
Fail.
crazy that I don't have a vape in my pocket.
Working smart.
In my pocket.
All right, well, so we got one more city that I want to talk about. Wait, no, John, you have to show that on camera now. You've got a glass pipe in your pocket, but not a vape.
It's travel.
Classic stoner. I love it. That's so good. All right, yeah. So one more city we got to talk about. Pine River City Council received so much feedback on a potential cannabis moratorium that they were looking at. And their feedback was largely positive. Now, because of that feedback, they did make changes to their rules. And they've not yet passed an ordinance, but we want to talk through what that ordinance looks like. Because it's an interesting story about how people getting involved in their city can actually change what local rules look like. So they had an ordinance that prohibited use on all city properties, parks, streets, sidewalks, banned it on any private property, generally accessible to the public. So think like bar patios, generally accessible to the public, not okay. The parking lot of an apartment, generally accessible to the public, not okay. Even though it's private property, can't consume cannabis there. They removed a lot of those provisions.
Okay.
Because people provided feedback. Now what the rule looks like is you can't consume it in a park, but you can consume it on sidewalks, streets, parking lots, or any outdoor space that a business chooses to allow. So in essence, parks, a place that traditionally children are allowed to be at, they don't want people smoking there. Anywhere else throughout the city, as long as it's private property or a sidewalk or street or whatever, that's pretty fine. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, obviously less prohibitive.
Shout out to all the people of Pine River City who called the city council to push back against this prohibitionist nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Tomfoolery.
this is a great example of like, if you actually get involved, I always tell you, if you actually engage with government, most of the times they listen. And it's like, when you think like, oh man, government doesn't listen to me, because they're listening to the people who engage with them. And this is a great example of like, all these cities did the same thing, but I feel like because Pine River City Council got the feedback that I'm sure the rest of those cities asked for feedback, they actually received the feedback that made them go back and make revisions. Like, that's how politics work, people. Like, the government's going to do whatever they want unless you straight up say no. So good on the people.
Our friend Luke up in Brainerd, he played a role in helping the Brainerd City Council reset their ordinance or edit their ordinance because they were going to prevent THC edibles being sold after 10 p.m. thinking liquor stores.
Okay.
And then Luke also helped make sure none of it applied to the low dose hemp market.
Yeah,
so
cool.
so they're in the clear for a few more years.
I like that. Yeah, John, I think that, I mean, it's such great points. I've heard before, if you want a seat at the table, pull up a chair. And you do that by talking to
Especially
your
with
city council
local
members.
government, like state and down, so accessible.
Yeah.
People just don't, hop in. But these are the results. You get what you want, or you get compromise. You get something.
Wait,
Yes.
John, we legalized weed. I thought we were able to, we don't have to tell people anymore to call their lawmakers, to call their city
No,
councils.
it's call your
we're
city
done.
manager, call your
yeah,
county clerk, call your mayor. Honestly, mayors have been the most responsive people. I'll shout out, I forget his first name, the mayor of Osseo has really like tried to like figure out what the hell is going on.
I'm going to shout out the mayor of Garrison.
There we go.
Garrison?
Oh, Garrison, Minnesota.
Oh, that's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I was like, where is that? Kazakhstan?
Where the hemp is Garrison.
Where the hemp is Garrison. I think we're going to
That's a good shirt.
find out pretty soon.
We're good.
It is a good
that's
shirt.
a
I
good
agree.
shirt. Well, you guys are cooking something.
Hey, contact Jacob Schlichter and get your slicks.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great transition. All right, so that's all the news we got for today. Shout out to Native Care. Shout out to Sweetest Grass. Shout out to shout out to Dabbler Depot.
Island Pezzy.
Pezzy Island. Yeah, so many cool shops coming online, opening up, cool events coming up. Really some cool stuff going on in Minnesota.
Finnegan's Farms.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Shout out Finnegan. Excited to hear more about your grant and some of the cool stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Northern Minnesota cooking.
Oh, and I think we should mention this before we get off air. The inaugural PWHL championship is home
The Walters
in Minnesota.
Cup.
In Minnesota. So shout out to our team kicking ass. I look forward to you guys getting a real name and us and me getting actually like experience it.
And Tanner getting season tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an official THC sponsor.
A big baller suite.
And the Growers Ball, June 21st. If you haven't gotten your tickets, make sure to look up the Growers Ball.
Dress your best.
John, is there any updates on the Timberwolves?
Nas Reed.
All right. There we go.
No.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
TSR time.
As Marcus said with that interview with Jacob Schlichter of Slicks, hearing a little bit more on his thoughts. Coming back after that, Dr. Dabs, Matt Robidoux, stick around. Will be a good episode, guys.
Shout out those two.
And we're back. John, it's so good to see you, man. It's been a few weeks.
You too, man. How's it going?
Good. I just got back from the Hemp Beverage Alliance. I was at their conference today.
Oh, I heard they had a big old fest.
Yeah, they've got the festival over the weekend. Tickets still available, but by Monday, you're going to have missed it. But it was put on by Hemp House, Trail Magic, and the Hemp Beverage Alliance. And there were a lot of out-of-state brands. So manufacturers, retailers. One of the trends I noticed was beer that doesn't have any alcohol in it, but it has THC in it.
Oh, so we're going for the NATHC.
Yeah, the Nazi.
Yeah, there you go.
Another trend, though, and I'm sure you've seen this, is this company called Breeze. They put lion's mane in their CBD
I love lion's mane.
THC beverage. Not just a little bit of lion's mane,
1,600 milligrams of lion's mane.
I mean, that's a lot of lion's mane.
That is, more than I'm taking. Or
Yeah.
more than I'm on right now.
Should we try it?
I'm excited, yeah. No, I didn't know what it would look like. But this is not it.
So you may feel happier and more social, calm and clear.
Impossible. Okay, it's got that little that citrusy bang. Does it say what flavor these guys are?
So I get grapefruit from it,
Yeah.
but it what is it called? Elderberry?
It's totally elderberry.
It's
Totally elderberry, yeah. No, I was going to say it reminds me of the nighttime gummies.
uh-huh.
And that's the elderberry flavor.
Okay. Which nighttime gummies?
I don't know. I don't remember the brand, but yeah.
So this
It's
is
like dark blue.
The flavor is lemon elderflower. So yeah, there's some sort of elder.
I think the elderberry and the lemon gives us that grapefruity
Sure.
smash we're getting.
Yeah.
But it's got some flavor.
Definitely has some flavor.
Quick producer note. I looked it up while you guys were talking. The average dose of lion's mane, not medical advice, but just found on the internet,
Medical
is between 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams. So this is
Sweet spot.
sort of right in that middle of what people might be consuming for like a standard dose.
Okay, I like that. How you doing?
Now, Breeze is the best-selling CBD THC beverage on social media platforms right now.
Wow.
So it's absolutely crushing on TikTok. It's popular. Their founder is sharing their like sales data on LinkedIn. Like they're doing 6 figures in a day.
Wow.
And so, but the cool thing is, Marcus, they've got mushrooms in a can.
Nice.
Yeah, this one's CBD, THC, and lion's mane, which that's probably, I would say, the most unique concoction. Either people are doing the mushroom supplemental route or just like the cannabinoid supplemental route. It's good to see that we're crossing over now.
Yeah, and this is their little can.
They got a big one of these?
They have a big one that's got 2,200 milligrams of lion's mane.
Bang.
So I think to Tanner's point, that is good to see that brands are using like the dose responsibly. Like they're not shorting you because you don't actually have to share how many milligrams are in your mushroom products.
Huh.
You'll notice that on tinctures.
Yeah, that part. I just have to jump in here because I remember going to a THC shop, like a really cool store, lots of different mushroom products, but the dosage on them. And Steve, you actually were the person that pointed this out to me. Sometimes it doesn't tell you at all. It just says that it contains lion's mane or it contains reishi or whatever be it, but you don't know at any point how much you're putting into your body. I'm glad at least that they label it on here.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I like about these. Yeah.
I mean, maybe because it doesn't have a psychoactive effect, but like, how weird would it be if you were buying cannabis products and you didn't know what the dose was going to be?
I mean, if you're taking lion's mane, it's not to get a psychoactive effect. So, but you said how much is a regular dose? Like 2,000-3,000?
1 to 3.
1 to 3. Yeah. If you're not giving people a sufficient amount, why even put it in there?
Well, so get this. I was at the conference today, and I heard that there's a brand, I think it's called Poppy. It's a soda brand.
I've heard of them.
Prebiotic, probiotic type soda. Well, they've been marketing their like prebiotic effects, and they're getting lawsuits now because the amount of Poppy sodas that you would have to drink in order to get the measurable effect would negate the effect of actually like drinking it in the first place. So there's a lawsuit from the consumers because they're being lied to. And so, as always, transparency is appreciated.
Don't lie to your clients, people.
Integrity,
They're
guys.
the reason you're here.
How would you rate overall? Before we wrap, how would you rate the taste?
Taste, I'll give it a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's above average. It doesn't have too much of an aftertaste, but it is there. And I think just elderberry in general has that kind of aftertaste. So it's like, if you're into that, good. But if you're not, it could be a little more off-putting.
I think I like the lion's mane with CBD and THC.
The actual ingredients in it, like the supplemental ingredients, I'm loving the mix. I think we should be doing more stuff with the non-intoxicating stuff with these small amounts of THC. It's only 2.5 milligrams THC, 5 CBD. So just like having that mix, I think.
Enough to put a smile on your face.
Exactly. And we got to introduce the whole country to this stuff, people. So drinks like this are how.
Minnesota for the win.
But you're saying like a lot of these brands were from all over the country.
Yeah, South Carolina, Atlanta, or the Georgia area is having a moment. I heard that
I know
Tennessee,
Florida's always.
Tennessee is the one that people are saying feels the most like Minnesota when you go there. So from an adoption standpoint, that's kind of interesting. And then there's other states where I don't know how it finished today, but New York was voting to either have 5 milligrams per serving or not. I mean, there's some states that have just killed it or have made it so hard.
So Iowa recently changed it to 4 milligrams a serving.
Total, I
Just-
think. Yeah. Hey, big market for 4 Canna, huh? Am I right?
It kind of messes up a lot of other. It pushes out a bunch of brands, but it also creates new opportunity for those brands who have been on the lower side.
Yeah.
So find where you fit in, folks.
And then, from a DTC standpoint, it's like the internet can really help you sell a lot of product.
Yeah, because I honestly had never came into one of these. I've never seen one. That's because I'm not on the internet. So it's kind of interesting and awesome to hear that they're doing that much revenue, just like DTC.
Shipping water, that's not always the most efficient way to ship something. But anyway.
And I keep drinking it. That's a plus.
Well, shout out to Breeze. Thanks for sharing these samples with us today. And you can find it on TikTok.
Cool stuff. TikTok.
Welcome to the Northern Lights podcast. We're here for a special interview episode with Jacob Schlichter and Marcus Harkis. My name is Steven Eigenman. It's great to see you guys.
Good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. You made a 2-hour drive to come visit us, so thank you. We appreciate your time and your efforts.
Of course. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Jacob, we talked about getting you on as soon as we could, and we're here. We're interested in hearing your story. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? I do a lot of fashion design, graphic design, activist work. I'm a professional photographer. I been in galleries throughout the nation. That's just a little bit, I suppose. All around, I just say I'm a professional creative, but slowly but surely I'm kind of getting into more of the lobbyist work for cannabis here and just the educational background that I've had with substance abuse disorder and trying to bring that background to the forefront of everyone's mind in this industry.
Well, what's your relationship with cannabis? Tell us about that.
With cannabis?
Yeah.
It started later than most people. I didn't try weed until I was 19, mainly because I grew up with one of my best friends, R.A.P. Jordan. He used to smoke a lot in high school. Unfortunately, that transferred into heroin usage and then meth usage, and it turned me off of cannabis when I was younger. Once I graduated high school, I saw those friends of mine suffering still, but I realized I made a grave mistake, and I thought cannabis was a lot worse than it was. I truly thought it was the devil's lettuce. But then after trying it for the first time, I realized, actually, let me just take you back. I was in my home on this black leather couch with my friend Chance. I'm just giggling my ass off, and I'm like, why is this illegal? What about this should turn everyone into a criminal that uses it? And from that point on, I'm just like, I need to fix this. And it unfortunately culminated in one of the darkest moments of my life. My best friend overdosed Easter morning. I literally buried him on my birthday of my 20th birthday. The universe wanted to tie us together in that way, I suppose. I don't know. But I dropped out of college immediately and focused and gaining knowledge about substance abuse disorder, and then being able to speak to my community at various events publicly about that, and trying to educate people that, like, hey, if your loved one is an addict, look at it chemically speaking, because chemical and physical addiction, 2 different things. But chemically speaking, the stuff being released in your brain that you get when you use hard drugs or any substance, or even sugar, coffee, stuff like that. The same stuff, the dopamine, the serotonin will release if you work out, do your chores, go eat a meal, go hug someone, go tell someone you love them.
Go masturbate.
Go masturbate. I used to work with the Hub too, not gonna lie, but
You're an apparel producer.
yep.
You're repping your own gear today, right? Show us what you got.
This is the potted plant beanie I did in line with the Tommy Chong brand and my own brand Slicks. This satin jacket is a collaboration between myself, Slicks, and my artist friend Yancy. It's a full embroidered back. It says "Keep no friends," I think, in Vietnamese.
Thought that was
That's ill.
Vietnamese and English letters. Nice.
And then you got a T-shirt on. What does that say?
And this is the message as a whole. It says education is harm reduction. This is with Cannabis, Dr. Riley Kirk.
Shout out to her.
She's a great person and a great resource too if you just want to learn more about like the chemical background of cannabis use. She's got a doctorate in pharmacognosy for medical science in studying natural plant medicine. And yeah, like her and I and you guys and everyone else, it seems like we're all just trying to raise the cultural awareness and knowledge about, cannabis, not just as the industry, but as it pertains to your actual body. Obviously the main conversations are like around terpenes and cannabinoids, but I think a lot of people get a little segued off of the actual problem that is like recognizing bad usage. I'm not going to name names, but like I know someone, for instance, that literally had to go to rehab for cannabis. And I know a lot of people have really varying opinions on that, and they don't want to hear that. And I think it's a very disingenuous conversation because cannabis is addictive. Anything can be addictive to the wrong person. So we just got to talk about it openly and honestly so people can get a grasp and get a control of that.
Can we talk a little bit about it?
Yeah.
There's this guy named Dr. Carl Hart. He's like one of the preeminent drug addiction researchers in the world, and I've fortunate to know him and brought him to Minnesota a couple of times. But what I've learned from him is that typically when people are suffering addiction, it's easy to scapegoat the drug. Yeah, consuming a drug abusively is hazardous to your health, but typically there are some other reasons that make them susceptible to being addicted. And a lot of times for people, it's a lack of hope, or it's like serious depression or anxiety or whatever.
Right.
Mental health issues, poverty. But I'm not trying to excuse abusive drug use at all. But I think it's more complicated than they like this drug too much and it's fucking them up.
They're lacking in other areas and compensating with a substance.
Yeah.
I've done it myself where I've like used in excess because I'm feeling fucked up about my life.
Yeah. To one of the most common diagnoses in modern day, like ADHD, is basically a imbalance of dopamine in your body that can come from the transport proteins, for lack of better words, that actually either transport it, so it's not transporting enough, or just your brain isn't producing enough in general. Well, the most common remedy for that, and it's not an actual solution, you're just kind of curing the symptoms, is stimulants, like Adderall, Ritalin, etc. Well, weed can be a stimulant too. So
Right.
A lot of people have found cannabis helps with ADHD. And to tie into what you just said, Marcus, is a lot of addiction is really just undiagnosed mental issues.
Yeah.
And people don't have,
Untreated mental illness.
and people don't have the ability or know-how to even go get help or to afford help. And there's nothing wrong
medical
with that,
cannabis
but
in Minnesota doesn't allow for ADHD to be a symptom or a reason to be able to have the card.
Qualifying.
Qualify.
condition.
Yes, a condition, not a symptom, but yeah. Because otherwise I would have it, and I would at least be able to experiment with the medical program. but I definitely have come from that background of 1999, 2000 being on Ritalin, and then finding Adderall, not inherently just for studying reasons, but because it was a college drug of, it was a currency in college at some points. And that's dealing controlled substances. Like there's a whole culture there of dealing the drugs that they prescribe you, ADHD type people like myself, and that cannabis is not an option, or it's an underground option. And that's another reason why it should be recreationally legal, because ADHD is so rampant.
Yeah. Seems like it's increasingly prevalent.
Right. And that's been the case probably 20 years. And so, where has cannabis legalization been? It's not been readily available for most people.
And that just kind of, right now they're talking about legalizing psychedelics to give people another option for mental health. And I've talked to people who are like psychotherapists, and like they know that a lot of the tools they have in terms of pharmaceuticals or talk therapy has extreme limits, and it's not going to be effective in helping a lot of people to overcome trauma or like as a treatment for mental illness. And cannabis is a safer, healthier alternative for a lot of people. So it's been a real tragedy that's been prohibited for so long. And there's a lot of people who could have benefited from it, but they were too afraid to like skirt the law to access a safer choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know this conversation was going here, but I like it. It's important.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well say I was like suicidally depressed a few weeks ago because my grandpa was passing, and I just ate a few mushrooms, meditated by myself, and was able to pull myself out of a really dark place. And I feel completely better now. And I've been trying to raise people's awareness about that. And it's not just like mushrooms, like ketamine and a bunch of other psychedelics can also help with stuff like that. And it's been shown to, like, quantifiably, empirically. Yeah. So hopefully we can get on board with that next and try to be exemplary and show other states that, this is a medicine when used responsibly. And there is quite literally a usage for all of this, medically speaking, that every human, I think, could actually benefit from, truthfully. But that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. Marcus, do you have any thoughts or updates for the community around mushroom and the mushroom or psychedelic task force? And what's any progress that you've heard in Minnesota right now?
Well, right now, Minnesota has a psychedelic medicine task force. Representative Andy Smith out of Rochester passed a bill during the previous session that established this task force. So it's comprised of a variety of people from various fields, academia, law enforcement, mental health, et cetera, and they're tasked with doing research and to bring forth a proposal next year before the 2025 session. We're still in the middle of the 2024 legislative session. But they're going to come forward with a proposal for like legalizing psilocybin-containing mushrooms, MDMA, and I think LSD, and it's going to be a medical model. That bill is going to be a medical model. But just a couple of days ago, me and some people that I work with to advocate for decriminalizing entheogens, we met with Representative Smith, and we're talking about like real decriminalization or legalizing for the grassroots, because as we saw with medical cannabis, it excluded the vast majority of people who should and could have benefited from it.
Oh, that's
so
a great.
It's kind
that's
of
a great.
predictable that that's what would come with the medical model. Like people are already doing mushrooms. I mean, I had some mushrooms probably within this past week, and it was wonderful.
I think you had some mushrooms on this last episode,
Yeah, I was on the tail end of a trip. I mean, it was so loud in here when I came in here. I was like, God damn, I feel like there's microphones in my ears. But we want to legalize what people are already doing that, is not necessarily bad for them unless they do it unsafely. We just want to make people safe, and prohibition and criminalizing people for substance use is unsafe. It destroys lives.
That's right.
So, we want to legalize freedom and make everyone safer.
Jacob, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you see the cannabis industry from your vantage point.
Well, born in India, adopted to Austin, Minnesota, raised most of my life in southern Minnesota. The cannabis industry in the South, a little different. The whole culture around it, a little different. A lot of closet usage. You know, I've in my lobbying efforts to talk to all the representatives down there. You know, they're like everyone else. In private, they'll tell you they're all for it. They use it. They'll tell you their wives use it, whatever. But then when it comes to actually voting, nah, they'll lie to your face. And I just think it's just really not a great way to go about business. I mean, to put it in short, you know, I don't mind if people are against it. I really don't. You know, I used to be against it myself. But I think it's more respectable to just say, hey, I'm not against it. I just don't know enough about it. And I think that's a lot of the culture that I've come from, is a lot of just people are proud of their ignorance. You know?
That's a strange thing to be proud of. I'm ignorant about not knowing and being willfully ignorant. I don't want to know, and I'm proud of that.
No, for real. I mean, seriously, though. I mean, we laugh about it, but that ignorance has ruined so many lives.
Yeah, it's not really
so
funny.
many lives. And it still is to this day, you know? I've had so many friends that have records due to different substances that, as we just said with mushrooms, you know, people are already using it. Why turn this person into a felon? Because they want to go use something in the privacy of their own home.
Right.
They're not violent.
Or by a fire pit.
Or in their sauna. But yeah, so I guess, I mean, to sum it up, that's kind of what I've been dealing with down there, just kind of raising the awareness, educating people. And I've been making progress. I've talked to a lot of police chiefs, different departments, government organizations, and now they're getting comfortable enough to actually say, like, hey, you know what, Jacob, I'm not actually anti-weed, but in my business as a police officer, the guy who's selling you weed might start trying to push you heroin when he's out of weed. And you know what? I've lived through that. That's what happened to a lot of my friends. So I get where he's coming from, because that's what he deals with every day. So he is a little jaded. He is a little cynical. And you got to respect that. But at the same time, that's where we got to change the laws to make his job easier and to make it safer for all the citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say that the onus was on the lawmakers, because even though the police shouldn't be criminalizing people for this, like, they make that their job. I mean, it's a drug war. The whole law enforcement culture in this country has been conditioned to, like, persecute people over drugs. I mean, the main three things that they criminalize are poverty, mental illness, and drugs. I mean, there's other things, but that's the shit they love. Those are the low.
Those are like the foundation of what leads to the other issues.
Right, right. Yeah.
It's
So I'm
important
proud
for
of-
you to be
I'm
doing
sorry.
the work and reaching out to these people. And you know a lot of people in southern Minnesota. That's one of the reasons why you're here today, is you have ideas and you have progress to share. You know, you're working on your own cannabis industry career. But right now you do a lot of apparel.
Yeah.
So share with us some of the not necessarily cool projects you're working on right now, but tell us a little bit about your history and what really brings you joy in this industry.
The history is a wild roller coaster of a ride. I've been doing this since like 2016. Kind of just started as a really weird opportunity that started with me doing sales for another brand down in southern Minnesota. But then the owner said, hey, I want you to also like partner with me on another fashion brand. And we actually made that brand completely dedicated to the cannabis industry. Now, I'm not going to say the name for obvious reasons, but that is a brand that I pretty much helmed, did all the work of, and was able to secure clients, several multi-billion-dollar clients that are household names that you'd all know. They are in the adult entertainment industry, so I'm not going to name any names, but you could probably guess. But in that,
I have a GoFundMe. I mean,
and OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Yeah.
Shoot me the link. Shoot me the link. Plug it right now. I'm just kidding. But
Marcus is a sexy motherfucker.
oh, don't have to tell me.
No. So like, take us
Okay,
through
I'm
like,
getting uncomfortable.
you know, we'll run that back. But you know, the idea here is like, so Jacob, you're an apparel producer. How can brands work with you?
How can brands work with me? It's as easy as just DMing me. I do the full 9 yards cut and sew. I'm choosing the stitch, choosing the fabric, choosing the weight of the fabric. I'm making the dye lines, the measurements of everything, you know. In the industry, I was trained in by a family that's been doing it for 50 years. So the producing and supplying, that's what I'm really familiar with. But the artistic aspect of actually designing something that people are going to wear, designing you an item that's going to sell out instantly. You know, my clients are coming to me, and I'll sell them a bunch of hats for like $13 a hat, right? Might seem pricey. They're turning around and selling 100, 200, even 1,000 of these hats for $40 a hat before shipping, selling out in 1 or 2 days.
Wow. That's ill.
Yeah. So you want to work with me? Yeah. The brand name is Slicks.
Get Slicks.
At Get Slicks for all the socials, getslicks.com. I'm always looking to work with more people. I'm always happy to teach people what I know too. You know, I'm not one of those people that's going to try to gatekeep knowledge. You know, if you're good at what you do, you should be spreading that knowledge to everyone else to help anyone else that came and is following in your footsteps. You know, You shouldn't have to worry about any competition if you're actually good at what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate your work, you know, in terms of like the clothing, because it's a big part of the cannabis culture. It's not just the cannabis products, but it's the apparel, it's the artwork, you know, it's the events.
It's a whole counterculture movement.
Yeah. Are there any other like brands within Minnesota of like cannabis culture brands that you admire or support?
There's too many to name, and I'm afraid to name any because I don't want anyone I forget to get after me. But I would say like the majority of brands that you or I know, you know, from Legacy with Josh to Cultivated with Anthony, Minnesota Marijuana, you know, with Mike. I think a lot of people, and there's so many more people to name. I am so sorry if I've forgotten you. I haven't. It's just I'd be here all day. But everyone seems to be working towards promoting a positive culture in their own way, and that's what I really love about it. You know, the legalization bill, I truly thought would bring unity, but I consider it the most divisive thing to ever happen in the culture.
Really?
Yeah, just because once money's involved, people got to side with what's best for them and their family. But I think with that in mind is what I'm trying to say, is that everyone is still trying to keep in mind the culture that came before and the counterculture that came with it. You know, for the longest time before legalization, I always told people, every time you smoke a joint, you got to realize you're participating in an act of counterculture, in an act of rebellion, in an act of defiance that so many people before you are in jail because of, or in prison, or had their lives ruined. And it's just like, if you don't have that cognizant awareness of all the lives that have been messed up before you to just sit there and enjoy your joint by your fireplace, it's like, what are you actually doing? You're just a consumer, a mindless consumer. I don't want anyone to be a mindless consumer. I want everyone to be very aware of everything that happened to lead to this point.
That's so good. You know, I think people are easily going to forget that like 230,000 Minnesotans have felonies. I was lobbying for this for years. I didn't know it was that bad. Like I knew I thought there were tens of thousands of felonies, but to hear 230,000 just in Minnesota, not in this, like 65, 70,000 misdemeanors.
Wow.
Like, that's crazy.
So many lives, so many families torn apart.
Yeah.
For a plant.
And those are just the people that got like convicted. There's probably a lot more who got arrested, and those arrest records alone can cost people job opportunities, housing, etc. So yeah, we should never forget that, you know. So thanks for encouraging us to remain and increasingly become conscious.
Yeah, every dollar we make off this legal industry, we owe it to everyone that came before us that couldn't do that. Yeah. And at least in my opinion.
Well, you said this has become it was divisive because of money, and to some extent I think so. But, I mean, you could apply that to anything. Mm-hmm. But what was it like being in the bill signing room? Because I saw you in there. How did it feel?
It was an honor to be invited. I don't think I deserved to be there, and I definitely stood in the wrong spot. But
I stayed out of the picture.
Yeah, it was honestly really just monumentous. I don't know, words don't describe it. It felt, I've been describing it as like the cannabis family reunion. You know, like all of us that have been fighting for this for longer than I've been alive, for a lot of these people.
Right.
We all knew each other. We've all been working towards this. We've all seen each other at events. We've all, you know, either worked together to like lobby certain politicians or something. You know, it's like we've all had a hand in this. We all really truly, it felt like a family gathering at some point.
Mm,
And
that's
then
good.
just the other funny part, the less serious part about it is outside the Capitol, reeked of weed. Inside, reeked of weed. In the actual office, reeked of weed. Everyone was joking. His Walls back there with Ventura token up. Like, it was like the
I don't
vibe.
think Walls is cool enough. If he smoked, I think he'd be cooler. But
Walls, if you see this, I'll give you some White Widow. I'll call it
He can gift
White
it to
Walls
you.
or something. Like we'll name it after you. I'll make you a strain. Let's
There
let's
will be
move.
a Walls strain at some point, I would imagine, since he was on the bill.
Oh yeah.
Garlic Walsberry from Doug's Nugs is
That's a real thing.
yeah, that was
garlic
Dude,
Walls.
shout out Doug's Nugs for
Okay,
garlic
now
walls.
he's got to smoke that one.
Yeah, hook
Even
us
if
up,
it's just
please.
one hit.
you
One
might
hit
be
on
able
the
to find
watermelon.
it growing at my apartment.
There's a strong suspicion it might be there, but we can't confirm.
Right.
Wrapping up here, before we go, tell us a little bit about what you have going on professionally as a photographer.
As a photographer, I mean, I just wrapped up an interview on NPR, which is really crazy to make it that far in my career. I'm in the historic Chateau Art of Our City exhibit in Rochester. I'm in the Rochester Airport's second annual art gallery at the airport, RSTE. Just got into a gallery down in Iowa at the McNider Museum. And then I'm in the Austin and Albert Lee galleries. And yeah, I got a lot of photography work going on. I'm mainly an astro and wildlife photographer. I'm always happy to shoot with other people and teach everyone what I know. But what I do is very complex. It's really not for beginner photographers. So if you do want me to help you, just understand that and don't be upset when you're not getting crispy as bacon sharp shots of the Milky Way from your point and shoot camera, you know? But yeah.
You're a cool dude, Jacob. We appreciate you coming on the Northern Lights podcast.
And
Thank
you
you so
did
much for
deserve
having
to be in that room. I mean, everybody who advocated locally throughout Minnesota, belonged in that room. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you guys
Doing
so
it for
much.
the culture.
No, exactly.
Peace, Jacob.
Peace.
Peace.
Awesome. Well, howdy everyone. Thank you for coming to another class of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Welcome to How to Grow Really Big Plants. Really looking forward to tonight because growing cannabis at home is not just about taking that seed and getting it to a finished product, which is really cool, especially the first time you do it. But it's about creating a high quality product that you're excited to have. And here in Minnesota, we do have some limitations on how much we're allowed to grow at home. I get to be the guy to say all the legal disclaimers at the beginning, so then these guys don't have to worry about it. But here in Minnesota, you can grow at home. We can only have 4 plants flowering at a single time, 8 plants total, and you're technically only allowed to have 2 pounds of flower per person in your adult home. So you have 2 people there, you can have 4 pounds of flower maximum, but technically only 2 pounds of that is yours, 2 pounds of that is the other person's. So just wanted to throw those quick caveats in there because we're going to talk about growing really big plants. And as we know, cannabis is a plant that doesn't just follow the laws and say, hey, we're at 2 pounds. I'm done growing now. So we're going to be talking a lot about growing big plants tonight. And it's important that you guys use big choices and make sure that you follow the laws. And we're here just to tell you how to grow big plants. So I'm really excited to be able to hand it off to people that know a lot more about growing than I do. Matt Robidoux and Dr. Dabbs are going to be taking over tonight's class, and I'm super excited for them to jump in. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end, so we are going to ask that you hold your questions until the end, just so that way we're able to get everyone's questions, but also people on the live stream can hear those questions as well. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in. So Matt, Dr. Dabbs, here you go.
Hello, hello. All right. Welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about some pretty practical growing knowledge today, mainly in the vegetative state. Mainly why should you grow a big plant? Some of those environmental factors on, especially in the vegetative phase, and how to maintain your health throughout. Talking a little bit about, or I should say a lot about training, and getting into practical tips, which is where we get pretty deep into the nitty gritty of some stuff. As I said earlier, for those of you who missed it, we got a lot of information to go through, so please write down your questions so that we can get to them in the Q&A session after. But without further ado, let's get to some introductions. So my name is Matt Robidoux. I've been growing cannabis for 4.5 years. I started almost right away when I got out of the Marine Corps. Did 5 years, did signals intelligence, and was a cryptologic linguist, so I learned Mandarin Chinese. And so I've been through this huge shift. As you can see, now I'm a big cannabis guy. So I went through almost a 180 in my life. But I am a 4th generation plant scientist, which is kind of funny, you know, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I'm doing some cannabis research at the U of M, which is particularly on physiology and trichome morphology. So kind of breaking new ground and with some original research there. I'm going to pass it over to my counterpart here, big old Clement.
So yeah, I'm Dr. Clement Dabney. People know me as Clem or Doc Dabs. So I earned a master's in plant breeding and molecular genetics and a PhD in cannabis molecular genetics and genomics from the University of Minnesota. I'm the chief science officer at the Uniflora Holistics, which owns Retro Bakery and Love is an Ingredient. So I largely do their R&D there. I'm the owner of Doc Dabs and co-owner of A&D Genetics. So in each of the gift bags you got Fukushima cherries is one of our releases. Some regular seeds, 6 seeds in there. So hope you're happy growing. Yeah, I've been a licensed hemp producer since 2016. I helped Red Lake set up their medical cannabis program, which is now an adult use producing company. Yeah, so I guess I've been growing cannabis since I was 16, down by the Minnesota River Valley. So I've been very passionate about cannabis for most of my life.
So why should you grow a big plant? What's the point? One of the biggest benefits happens to be legal, and that is to maximize your plant count efficiency. If you have one massive plant that can accommodate for what 4 plants at a smaller scale could produce, you can really maximize your yields and you know, as Tanner said, maintain that legal limit. And you know, you really can utilize the space that you have. I've grown in a 5x5 tent my entire time. I actually started without a tent, but that's all I have. Just that 5x5 space. So everything, you know, I don't have a mom room or anything. Like I'm very limited with my space, as I'm sure most people are. The interesting thing is that it can actually be less work overall. You would think that that one massive plant would require more work, but in particular to the watering and defoliation, you're taking care of one organism versus 4, and you know, each plant is essentially its own completely independent being. So they're all going to respond differently, even if they're the same genetics. And so keeping it within one plant just yields less issues. Lower cost, less nutrients used, less soil used, and easier to track. Once again, you're talking about one thing versus I've done up to 13 plants at once, which was just a mess. So yeah.
I think that's supposed to say better bud quality.
Yeah, not bugs.
But yeah, so this
I don't want bugs.
this right here is a 10 by 10 tent in a house that A&D Genetics rents. So we kind of, I guess they're growing 4 plants. So each one of these plants has its own light, its own circulation fan. So yeah, we're just trying to maximize the amount of, I guess, grams per square foot on a single plant. And then for our case, it's like maximizing seed yields, because the state wants us to produce at least 25 grams of seed for a seed test, as well as retain 25 grams of seed for future testing if we ever got knocked. So that's 50 grams. A seed probably weighs 0.01 gram. You know, I guess we sell our seeds. MSRP is $30 for 6 seeds. So you start doing the math on that. It's a significant amount of seed you have to send for testing as well as retain. So we can maximize, I guess, our profitability and the amount of seed we can produce in a system like 10 by 10 tent with 4 lights.
And I want to point out that 10 by 10 tent with 4 plants is legal by the state's laws. So like you said, you know, imagine how many plants, if you think about a small one, how many you'd fit in that 10 by 10 tent versus 4. So maximizing that space.
I would say that it was not legal upon harvest. So, you know, you have your 2 pound limit. I think that we were in the realm of 15 pounds. You know, on the 4 plants.
That's 4 plants.
That's 4 plants.
And you grew in 30-gallon pots?
We grew 30-gallon pots, coco coir. We ran Floor Flex nutrients line. What is that? V1, V2, B1, B2. What's the one that they run after? I'll show it later on in the schedule. But yeah, we basically ran their whole line. We run Great White for mycorrhizae and bacteria. We run Power SI for silica and a pH up and down. It's relatively pretty simple fertilizer regime.
And for context, so I brought this plant in. This is essentially the case study plant that prompted this course. I planted this on August 1st, and it took 4 months to reach that entire 5x5 tent. You know, filling out from edge to edge, and then you know, timing the flip to flower, and so we're both coming at this from largely a hydroponic grow style rather than a soil-based style. And we'll get into why that is, but just for the context of this class, we're kind of a vast majority of the information is from a cocoa approach.
Watch the full class today.
So yeah.
Visit our website, mncannabiscollege.org, to stream the full class online anytime.
All right, y'all. Well, that's all we got for today. Thank you so much to Jacob for coming in, talking to Marcus, talking to Steve. Thanks so much for Doc Dabbs, Matt Robidoux doing their class. So great having them in as always. Marcus, thank you to be here. John and Steve off the screen, thank you guys so much for coming in today. We appreciate it. Oh, yeah. We'll be back in your feed in just about a week. In the meantime, follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you want to find us. Share it with a friend. Tell your mom about this podcast. She'll like it, I promise. Give her a call also. She probably wants to hear from you. All right, that's all we got for today. Marcus, thanks for being here.
Thank
we'll
you
catch
very
you guys
much.
real soon.
Tell a friend, bitch.
Check us at the Dabbler Depot. Doobie Dabbler. Doobie Dabbler.
Sorry. I'm out of control.
That was great.
Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by my co-hosts John Barty and Marcus Harkis. Production assistance from Shayna Payton and Steve Eigenman. Today's episode is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. The information provided in this podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. Information shared may not constitute the most up-to-date or legal information. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking their own legal counsel. The opinions and views expressed on this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.
Coming back after that, Dr. Dabbs, Matt Robidoux, stick around. Will be a good episode, guys.
Shout out those two.
Yeah. We'll be right
Shout out to the drug recognition expert who failed miserably. And shout out to police department. You were looking guilty for the next 3 hours after you wrongly arrested me for impairment.
This is insane.
We're keeping that in.